when we are able to lower our time preference, we forego consumption today. And the foregoing of today's consumption allows us to accumulate resources for the future. And these resources, they become savings, and then we can use.
I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to play the devil's advocate for the sake of the conversation. The Keynesian would say, no, that is bad. We need people to consume, or else the world will spontaneously catch on fire. Saifedean, what would your response be to that Keynesian?
I'd laugh. I'd thank myself for the fact that I no longer have to deal with these kinds of idiots because I'm out of academia. And generally, I wouldn't be in a position to respond because, I just don't engage with those people because, how do you even, why would you want to waste your time? Obviously, this is ridiculous. The only way that we can have consumption first is by production. Consumption is unlimited. And our desire for consumption is unlimited. It's not like we need to have people consume. People don't need to be given a reason to consume. Everybody wakes up every day, and if they don't consume, they die. So you need to drink water, you need to eat, and if you don't do that, you're going to die. And so we always have an incentive to consume. We need a place to stay, we need shelter, we need clothes. And just the basic essentials of survival necessitate that we have to consume. So the notion that we need to encourage people to consume is ridiculous because reality, nature, the setting and rising of the sun, our physiology requires us to consume. All of these things require us to consume. And so, but the tricky part, the difficult part is producing the things that we need to consume. That's the difficult part. And how do we produce? Well, that's what I discussed in the book. As I was saying, we economize by working, we develop property, we develop capital goods, we trade. All those are ways for us to produce more and therefore generate more output for us to be able to consume it. So the constraint is not finding people to consume. I've never come across anyone who has a problem of not wanting to consume enough. There's always another car. There's always things that we could want to consume. And you could always have better, nicer things. The restraint, the constraint is production. And for production to take place, we need to lower our time preference away from leisure and consumption into labor, production, saving, and capital accumulation and investment. That's the tricky part. That's the hard part. So it's easy to say how we consume. And so the Keynesians really have it hilariously backward because they want to say that, no, the problem is we don't have enough desire for people to consume. And so we need to destroy their ability to save in order to force them to consume. And that's idiotic. We don't have to destroy people's ability to save in order for them to consume. People want to consume because they are alive, and to live is to consume. Every living cell has to consume things. That's what a living thing does. All animals consume. All living things consume. Plants all consume. That's not the limit. The problem is the production. How do we make the stuff that we consume? How do we secure it for ourselves? And the answer to that is, as I was saying earlier, labor, production, saving. All of these things require the delaying of gratification. So we can't just go into the Garden of Eden and spend all of our life laying on the beach and consuming. We don't have that on Earth. Maybe we'll have it in the Garden of Eden, but Earth is not the Garden of Eden. If you're just laying down on the beach waiting for food to come to you, you're going to have a bad time. The food's not going to get there. So, you need to go and hunt the food. You need to grow the food. You need to work. And so you need to sacrifice leisure time on the beach. You need to sacrifice consumption goods that you could enjoy today in order to make capital goods that can increase your productivity tomorrow. And that requires the lowering of time preference. So when we lower our time preference, we are able to forego consumption. So we take the resources that we could have consumed, which we want to consume. We never have a problem on wanting to consume. We take the resources that we want to consume, and we use them for production. And production is uncertain. It has a high cost because, we're taking consumption goods away, but also it's uncertain. It's risky. It might not materialize. So you take the corn and you decide, I'm not going to eat all my seed corn. I'm going to plant some of that seed corn so that I can have more corn tomorrow. But, locusts could come and they could eat the corn, and then you don't have any corn tomorrow. So your sacrifice went for nothing. So in order for us to have production, in order for us to have corn tomorrow, we need to save, we need to invest, and we need to lower our time preference. But when we do that, we get into the process of production, and it could work out. And that's how, and if it works out, that's good. We have more corn next year than we have this year. We have a better life next year than we have this year. And life continues to get better, and the quality of life improves. And that's essentially what civilization is. It's our quest to live a better life tomorrow than we do today, to give our children better life than the life that we have. But the tricky part happens when, this all goes wrong, when when we suffer from this illness called Keynesianism, or its varieties that have accompanied humanity throughout history, which is that we get these people who tell you, hey, you know what would be really neat is if we consume all the corn and still manage to grow the corn for next year. So we're still going to have corn next year, but we don't need to consume. We don't need to forego consumption. We don't need to lower our time preference. We don't need to delay gratification. We can have our cake and eat it too. And that's the Austrian business cycle. The Austrian business cycle, the theory of the Austrian business cycle, is the controversial idea that you can't have your cake and eat it too, that you can't plant the seed corn that you eat. You have to choose. You're either going to eat it or plant it. And if somebody tells you, hey, you can eat it and we're still going to plant it, they are scamming you. They're just taking a cut from the corn and then they're leaving you with nothing. And that's I think why it's why I liked writing this book this way, because it allows me to arrive at the Austrian business cycle theory. It allows me to explain the problems of the business cycle from the Austrian perspective, from first principles, because we start off with time preference. We start off with the idea of delayed gratification, with the idea of investment, with the idea of capital accumulation. And then that takes you all the way towards understanding why things go wrong when you don't save and instead rely on consumption.